Patrice Callagy, and I'm currently the Director of Emergency Services at Stanford Hospital. I'm a nurse, but now I direct the emergency department. I went to Ceremony High School in Daly City. It's no longer there. And then for college, I was having some financial problems, so I went to junior college to start, and then I went to college in Notre Dame to get a biology degree. Well, it was in science for undergraduate, then I went to nursing school, and then it's been nursing all along. It was a nurse.
It was.
Yeah, it was a nurse. And funny, when I was in high school, I liked science. I didn't really excel in it. I was playing sports a lot. And then I went to CSM for 2 years. And my first biology class I did very poorly in. There were 50 students to start, and there were 5 by the end of the semester. Yeah. And the teacher told me I would never be a nurse. And so I decided, okay, I'll go and do computers. So I did computers for a year, but back then that was the punch card computers. I don't know if you even know that we used to have, you had to do all these typing and punch them into cards, and if you misspelled one comma or something, your whole program went around. You'd have thousands of cards you'd put in this massive machine. Computers were interesting back then, and I didn't have the patience for it, and I didn't like it, so I went back to biology, took another biology class, totally separate with an instructor, and the first day he said, "Oh, I saw you took this biology class." He said, "I guarantee you're going to pass my class," and it was smooth sailing after that. He was a really good teacher and made it very interesting. It was actually, I saw a nursing kit when I was a kid in a five and dime store. And it was just this white kit that had, fake pills and a stethoscope. And it was maybe about $2 back then, which was a lot of money. Yeah. So I would worked around the neighborhood. And I collected, 5 cents for every job I did. And so I was able to get enough money, and I went and bought that kit. I remember the day I ran down there and bought the kit. And I just always thought I'd be a nurse. Kind of strange because none of my families at all, anywhere background are nurses. Well, it was that class, the instructor telling me I would never be a nurse. That, in retrospect now as an adult, you say, well, okay, something was wrong with the class. 50 people ended up with just a small group that actually, finished that class. But teachers play a big role in how your career is, and so when they tell you can't do something, you just respect and go that way. So I think that was one obstacle. I think getting into school or paying for school, I had actually gone into St. Luke's, which was a diploma school in San Francisco. I put my $500 deposit down, and I was working, but my car engine blew up, and so I couldn't get to school without a car, and I couldn't afford to buy a new car. So then I had to drop out of that school and kind of go the back route, as I was explaining earlier. So it was those are the obstacles I had at that time. I was fortunate. My parents, always told us we'd go to college and they would support us through it so that we could live in their house. And they fed us and made sure we were comfortable and had clothes and stuff. But we, they also told us we pretty much had to work once, 16, go find a job. And but they were always very supportive of making sure we continued with our education.
Yeah. How would you describe the biggest differences between a doctor and a nurse?
Oh, that's a good question. So doctors, they have a lot of responsibility, a great deal of responsibility. And I guess it's a little different working at a teaching hospital because we're always teaching the future doctors. And the more you grow as a nurse, the more you sort of understand what they're doing. But they have I think it's all in the responsibility at this point that they have. The knowledge, if we're going equal, a doctor who's been a doctor for 20, 30 years versus a nurse who's been a nurse in the same career for 30 years, we probably have the same knowledge. It's just they're ultimately responsible for the patient. Mm-hmm. It's just talking to people and trying to put them at ease. When they enter the emergency department, everyone's scared. Mm-hmm. They don't know what's going on with them. The family's scared. They didn't plan to be there, so they have a lot of distractions. Maybe they had to pick the kids up from school, the dog up from dog daycare. They probably have parents they're taking care of. So it's that first interaction with the patient and their family, and you can just see, it putting them at ease. Mm-hmm. But it's that first interaction when you can just see the tension sort of erased from them. It almost takes, it doesn't take away their pain, but it decreases the worry and the emotions, and then sort of the pain eases also, just depending on how good you are with that first interaction. Mm-hmm. And I think we had some very tragic situations this weekend. Yeah. I think that those are hard on everyone not to take home. So we have different aspects where we can have people come in and talk to our staff, the doctors, the nurses, the techs, so that they don't bring it home with them or just feel the emotions after. So I'd say that's one of the most difficult points. I am very lucky. As a director, I get to do everything. So I go in the department bright and early. I'm there about 6:15, 6:30. So I go in and I see the night shift. So I talk to them, find out what they did, what their challenges were. We do a massive huddle at 7:30 in the morning with the day shift and the physicians and the night shift. And we talk through what we want to talk through for the week. So I'm present for that. Then I go over to 2 other areas of the emergency department. Oh yeah, you can ask Sue. Because I tend to, we've learned that, when you come home, the first hour should be just catching up together and spending time together. But then I will get back on the computer. Yeah. My job is not a 9-to-5 job. I have to answer a lot of emails, and I keep an eye on the department so I can give helpful hints about what can we do to move some patients around. It's a life balance. But that was something I had to learn, and I think a lot of people in the leadership role have learned to just give up one day at least to emails and such. But the phone is always very close, because if something happens, I'm the one called. For my particular job, I think you need to be innovative. I think that you also need to know everything there is to know about what the bedside nurse does, and as financials, which is really key now in healthcare. We're the most expensive hospital in the United States, which is not something you want to be. So the emergency department. We did a very good job of eliminating $2 million of waste last year without having to really eliminate any bedside staff. But I think it's basically thinking constantly of how you can make the patient's experience better in any innovative way possible, but constantly thinking of new things and just asking, why not? Why can't we do it? It's changing culture is not easy. People don't want to change, but we have to. We have to. I think you want to try to see what it's like to be a nurse. I think sometimes people think it's different than what it actually is. And we've had people I've hired that really didn't want to be nurses. Well, nurses, you really have to have a heart to do it. You see people at their worst. You're fighting with them, as oftentimes they want to fight against you because they're mad, they're angry, they've been just diagnosed with terrible diseases, and they can be really upset and take it out on you, and you have to explain how you're going to help them. So there's an incredible amount of empathy. As high school students, you want to learn as much about the pathophysiology of the body and how it works, and how medications interact with that, and how it changes you. Even a broken bone, what happens to the vessels the blood cells, and you can volunteer on the floor, and just to know that it's a great career. I tell everyone, people always say, oh, I want to be a physician assistant or a nurse practitioner or a physician. I'm like, well, nurses, you can go anywhere. You can go anywhere in the country.